Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and yes, I am so excited about our guest today. Spider Meka, I'm not even going to say her last name, but Spider Meka, I adore this woman so much. We've been talking for, I don't know, probably a year and a half, and we finally got to meet about 3 months ago in Chicago, and I think I hugged her like 30 times because her energy is it's just so good and loving, and she's just awesome. So I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. Okay. Internationally recognized portrait photographer Spider Meka Hemmons wields her camera like a heart surgeon's scalpel. She reveals deep truths in our personal and professional photos to heal trauma, disrupts what we think about the beauty industry, and changes our belief systems behind how we look at ourselves in the mirror. With 25 years of experience in communication, branding, and human studies, Meka evolved from A-list celebrity retouching into building a platform of artistry, education, consulting, and speaking to help everyday people celebrate their natural attributes and prove that beauty is more than skin deep. So, on that note, let us meet. So, Spider or Meka?
You know what? I will answer to whatever you call me, Iris. If you call me, I'll come running. I'll hear your voice.
Well, I will call you Lovey. So,
There we go. Here I am.
Okay. So, everybody meet Lovey. We met online, I don't know, like a year, maybe a little bit even longer than that. And then we kind of stayed in touch, kind of sort of here and there on LinkedIn. Well, we reconnected on LinkedIn. And then Annie Ruggles, who everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Mostly Annie. Everybody knows who's watching this. It was Deidre that had the Dames thing up in Chicago. Yeah. Okay. See, that's my whole story. So Deidre had this Dames thing up in Chicago, and you all know I'm part of the Dames, and you know all that whole thing. And Meka hosted it at her studio. I'm just going to call you Spider. Spider hosted it at her studio. And it was just so warm and inviting. But I saw her and I was like, I'm going to go hug her. And I hugged her. And then I hugged her again. And then I hugged her again. And then I hugged her again. And I don't know. I just kept hugging you because you were just so huggable. I was so happy, to be in your orbit. That
in my hugging space.
It was amazing. So,
if you're in that space, just come for a hug. I still don't think it was enough. I think we need more.
I mean, I agree. That's why I'm going to be up in Chicago again and again. But I'm always up in Chicago, Well, yeah.
I'll be there to hug you. So there you go.
No. And I was actually... Where was I? I was not too far from you, but I couldn't get to you because I was there shooting actually Kofi and I were there shooting a keynote for one of my clients at Misericordia.
Oh yeah, I remember that day.
Yeah.
We were trying to get together, but it didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
I was very sad, just so you know.
So was I.
Missed out on some hugs.
I know. So we're just going to have to figure all that stuff out.
I'll be here. We'll make it happen.
And I'll be there. So I'll be there. Oh, anyway. So okay. So see, this is what I mean. I just adore you. Okay. So tell us about Spider, not the spider.
Not the story.
But tell us about, your journey to entrepreneurship, how it all came. I mean, I know the story. It's a fascinating story, I think. So
is it? Okay.
Well,
cool.
the whole, the Oprah, the whole spiel.
Oh, that part. Okay.
Yeah, because it's interesting stuff.
I appreciate that you call it interesting and fascinating. We never really know how our own selves and our lives comes across when, other eyes are on this. So I appreciate that. Yeah. You kind of, spoiler alert, Oprah's in there someplace.
It's Chicago, right? So,
it's either Oprah or Al Capone. Didn't start with Al Capone.
You're too young for Al Capone, so
I'm sorry. Do you not see the Bride of Frankenstein gray streak that I got going on here?
Not from 1920.
I just had a birthday, Iris. I'm 45 years old on August 15th.
Oh, happy birthday. I had a birthday in May, and I'm 64 years old, so,
Congratulations. You look great.
Thank you.
Keep it going. How about you? Yeah? You got more shit to do.
Rock and roll. I have way more shit to do. Rock and roll.
Oh
my
gosh.
That's what keeps me young.
We've got a lot of work to do. And it's the end of story. That's why I do what I do. So okay. I won't cheat anymore. I'll go back to somewhat of the beginning.
I think that how you got to where you are is, I think it's very heart-centered, and it's very real, and it's very empowering. So.
Okay. I like that you use the word heart-centered. Most of the time, I don't even call myself a portrait photographer. I call myself a heart surgeon who uses a camera lens as a scalpel. And I say that for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I'll rewind a little bit. I can't exactly say that things started with Oprah, but I feel like that was definitely the boiling point, the triggering point, the turning point, all the points. I worked for her for almost a decade, excuse me. And in 2013, before any of us really knew that she was going to sort of close down Chicago functions, operations, and move out to California, there was me and sitting at my desk every day and not being happy at all with my life. I was 33, something around there. And I say this a lot. It's how many midlife crises do we have in our lifespan? And especially at that time in your life, there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of questioning who you are, a lot of existential, who am I? What's my purpose on life? Is where I am right now really going to propel me forward? And where the hell do I want to go? What does forward even mean? I feel like a lot of us go through that conversation within ourselves anyway. And I just happen to be at this place where a lot of people would consider, unicorns and rainbows, and you're at the top of the world working for an actual billionaire who is a personality and affecting so much of literally the planet. And I was unhappy. I was unhappy because, everything has its pros and cons. And as wonderful as so much of the work that she was doing on one hand, I was a cog in the wheel. And this was a very well-oiled machine. And this was a place where I had not yet found my true north. And so I was feeling all the disruptions, all the turmoil, all the, like I said, existential crisis questioning, and I wasn't happy. What I was doing there, everybody knows this about my story. I was a retoucher. I don't want to go too much into it, but I wasn't happy with what I was being asked to do as my primary job, my occupation, the thing that I was so good at, things that I was, paying the bills with. It was making me really depressed. It added to the pile of things that were making me depressed because, it wasn't just her. Can't give her all the credit for my depression, right?
Right.
And so I went home, Iris, one Friday night, and I just said to myself, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to keep crying. I don't want to be sad. I am a heart-centered person. I want passion. I want purpose. And I couldn't remember the last time I felt those kind of things in my line of work. And I was tired of it. And so I literally went home one Friday, turned off my phone, didn't go outside. I didn't bathe. I didn't brush my teeth. I sat in one place on my couch and I did this exercise. And by Monday morning, I was a portrait photographer. I had found my joy. I had found my purpose. I had seen all the chaotic elements that made me feel like I was wandering and, had no path, no purpose. And I had seen all of those things suddenly fit into this beautiful puzzle piece that fit together with each other. And everything in my life suddenly made sense. It didn't feel chaotic anymore. It felt like all the screaming and crying and the tangents and the, going off the road, off path, all those things that just felt, what am I doing here? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden it was like, oh, that's why I did that, because I needed this skill to do portrait photography. Oh, that's why I had this experience, because I needed to talk to that person so that I could, have a contact doing portrait photography. Everything ended now with, I'm a portrait photographer now. And so Monday morning, it was like for the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel depressed anymore. I felt like I had found my purpose and my joy. And that was 2013. So It's 2024 now. And I have not looked back, and I've only built and grown and evolved. And every time I tell the story, it remains true.
And I think what I love the most about it is, and it's something that I see with every solo entrepreneur, everybody who has their own thing, is that every job that we had, every experience that we had led us to what we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's so powerful to me because, a lot of times there are some people that are serial entrepreneurs and they knew that they were going to be entrepreneurs and they knew that was that was going to be their path. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I mean, I had no idea.
I knew something in me knew that, like, I didn't know what the word entrepreneur meant back in the day. When we're kids, we don't know definitions and words for anything. And then when I remembered, I'm working really hard for this person to do what this other person wants, but it's not what I want. So what would it look like to work this hard for myself?
Yes. And it's like for me, it was like, I'm out here doing sales and making these people like a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Right.
They're not paying me a lot of money and they're giving me a lot of bullshit grief.
We are not going to talk. The day that I learned what my coworkers were making versus me was a very sad day.
Oh.
It was a super sad day. We're not going to talk about job titles. We're not going to talk about how I went into my quote unquote boss's office and what's the word I'm looking for now? I outlined, that's a good word. I researched and I outlined how much I actually was worth because of what I was doing. I had researched retouchers across the country, people in my position across the country, across the world, actually, because I was really determined to, get paid more and valued more. And I think when I left the office, they probably laughed outright, but I was making a quarter of what I could have been. And then when I left the office, they upped it a little bit. So it was almost a third. And then it was like, that's it. That's all you get. That's all we can do. Yeah. It was heartbreaking is another word that comes to mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a woman thing, a racial thing, a woman racial thing?
Nope. Honestly, I don't. I don't think it was a gender thing. I don't think that it was a race thing. I mean, I literally worked for a female person of color. So I don't think that.
I know. That's why I'm like, why wouldn't you get paid?
That's why you're
Especially
curious,
all of
right? No, maybe I don't actually know the word for it, but I can describe it. It was a hierarchy thing. It was a you should just be happy that you work here thing. And how dare you ask for anything more? It was that kind of thing.
Ooh.
Wow. It was a you are easily expendable, so don't rock the boat or you can be replaced thing. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
See, and I used to work around the corner from Harpo. I worked on, Elizabeth Street off a lake.
Okay. Yeah. West side of Chicago. Yep. All those streets. Yep.
So we used to go to, for lunch, we would go to the the Blue House Oyster Bar and
that was over there.
Right. And we would go to, what was the name of there was
that Cajun place over there.
I didn't. That was like I didn't eat there, but because I don't do Cajun. But there was a restaurant. The woman owned it, and she became like my grandmother. I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. Oh my God! I'll remember it when we get off of this. But everything was like homemade, and it was literally around the corner from Harpo. Like Harpo was here. You know what I'm talking about?
It was a little cafe. It was like a breakfast place. I loved her.
So she was. So I was working at this place called Erin Solutions, and we were like an on-site concierge service. I was the vendor manager and all this stuff. Well, anyway, so I would go in there, and the first time I went in there, I looked at her and I thought she was from New York. Actually, I think she was from New York.
I think she was.
She was from New York because I walked in and it was she had like brisket.
Yes.
And I remember the first time I had, what the hell was her name? Something with an N or fuck, I can't remember. It's going to drive me nuts.
Her name might have been Iris because, and this is
Ina.
It was Ina. And I had brisket for the first time at her place.
At her place.
Yes.
So I come walking in. It was like hilarious. Somebody was like, you have to go to Ina's and try her food. You're going to feel like you're at home. And I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to, whatever. So I go in and there she is. And I'm me, right? So I said, so she said, hi, I'm Ina, welcome. And I said, okay. I said, I was told that if I eat here, I'm going to feel like I'm home. She grabbed my hand and she goes, sit your ass right there. I'll be right back.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I already feel like I'm at home. Okay. So I sit down and she brings me the most amazing brisket that I've ever had in my life.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God. And then she gives me dessert. And then something else. And then she gives me something to take home. And I go to pay. And she said, no. She goes, you go home. She goes, you pay the next time you're here. And I'm like, okay. So I started going every single week.
I bet. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
She was amazing. The food was amazing. But yeah.
She didn't let me pay. I think I got cookies or brownies or pie or something. And she wouldn't let me pay for it either. That was just her. Yeah, she was just like amazing.
Yeah. And then I would bring like my team in, because I'm like, how can I bring in more business? So I bring my clients there. I would bring like if I was bringing a client there, I would call her ahead of time and she'd be like, don't worry. You have your table, you have your this and everything. It was amazing. But she closed.
She did close. I like how we're talking about happy things right now.
Well, we should be talking about look, I mean, at the end of the day, right? It's like we experience the same area.
Sure.
Like literally, right? The fact that to me, you knew your worth. A lot of people, not necessarily that they don't know our worth, they don't care, right?
It doesn't matter. And that's okay, right? We have so much to think about and to manage. And there's no control over life. Things happen to us that are unexplainable. They don't come from any particular source. There is no, what's the inertia? What's the law for every event? There is a subsequent event, that kind of thing. That doesn't really apply to life.
Cause and effect.
Sure. Yeah.
A reaction, there's a consequence or whatever.
There it is. Reaction or something. I don't actually believe Murphy's Law. I don't believe that to be true at all. I would challenge Murphy because a whole lot of shit happened to me.
Murphy's Law.
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah. Maybe for like marbles, but not for,
Murphy's
illness.
Murphy's Law is if you're expecting it, right? So what I find is Murphy's Law was true when I was living in that waiting for the next shoe to drop world. Because then you're manifesting it, right? You're inviting it in. You're saying, okay, let the next wrong thing happen. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're asking the question and the universe is going, we'll show you, watch. But if you, right? But if you act from a place of dare I say, abundance, and not a place of lack, then Murphy's Law doesn't apply. What applies is all of the good shit that you invite in. If you invite in bad, you're going to get bad. If you invite good, you invite good. And, I've been rocking and rolling because I'm done with the bad shit. I'm over it. Right? So it's like, okay, mindset change and business is rocking and rolling. People want to work with me because they see who I am. And I don't have to hide who I am. I used to. It's like, fuck that now.
Sure.
I made that. I opened that up for you so you could curse now. This is not safe for work, by the way, anymore.
I think we're like 3 swear words in. So there you go.
Did we say fuck already?
You dropped the first F-bomb. Yeah.
Did I earlier?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Sorry.
See, I don't even realize it. But the point, right? So I think that if we manifest bad, we get bad. If we manifest good, we get good. And I think that it's all energy. And it's all energy. And we really have to be careful though, because that whole cause and effect thing, it gets you in trouble. That's how I grew up. And I feel like there were a lot of hard lessons in my life to discover that cause and effect is not really true. It's not that black and white. It's not that simple, especially, to sort of dig deeper into what you were just talking about manifestation and what we want and things like that. Here's what we know for sure, or at least when I say we, I'm referring to myself, the collective me, right? Here's what I know for sure. When I ask for things, and Iris, my love, my darling, I ask for big things in life. Like I want to be on top. I'm just going to say it. I don't have to be the most loud, the most influential or anything like that, but I have my own picture of what I want my own success to be. And it's pretty fucking high. And so when I ask for things from you either, my darling, we're going to take over the world. So when I ask for things, what I know is that the universe is always listening, right? And then all of a sudden, what we like to call chaos and, trials and tribulations and whatever, it starts to kind of rain down because what I feel like is the universe is saying, oh, okay, are you sure you want this thing? Because if you're sure, here's some things to kind of prove to yourself if you can handle it, if you're ready for it, if what you say you want, you actually do want, or if it was just, a fleeting moment and some bad cheese that you might have eaten, and I have to often remind people of this because that's what happens, right? You say, okay, I'm on this path and I got all the energy and I'm waking up and I'm doing this habit every day and everything is going right. And then all of a sudden, when it rains, it pours. I get sick. Mom needs me, car breaks down, bills are late, all these things one after another. And then people feel really discouraged and feel like, well, maybe what I want isn't worth it.
but I have to remind myself, and I love to say to others, that's when you know it's worth it, because the universe is asking you, hey, are you sure? Because if you can get over these things that are happening all of a sudden, then you have proven to yourself that no one and nothing is going to slow you down to get to this thing that you said that you wanted. So overcome. Yeah.
So there's that, but there's also how you ask the universe for stuff. Because what I find is, so this is a lesson that I learned, was I would ask and I would get, and all the trial bullshit would happen, right?
Sure.
But now when I ask, I say, this is what I want, but I want it this way. I don't want it that way. I don't want it to come with this giant, like tooth mark on my ass. I don't want that. I want it to come like this. And so when you're really specific, because it's like, be careful what you wish for, right? But it's also be careful how you wish for what you want. Because I find that the way that I ask for it now, I don't have the trials and tribulations.
Interesting.
Now,
so you're writing a book?
I don't know. People keep asking me that, and I don't know. But, I just find that it's just all experience, and it's everything that we go through is experiential, right? It's like what we've experienced. And what I experienced was I would ask for something and it would come, but it would come at like some kind of a cost. And then I was like, I really don't want that cost to come with this. Like, I just want the thing. I've worked my whole fucking life to get where I am. Why do I need any more crap? And so now I say, this is where I want to be, but I don't want that other crap with it. So if it needs to take longer, let it take longer, but I don't want the crap.
That's really interesting, because most of us are taught, don't worry about the how, because that's the universe. That's what the universe figures out for us. All we have to do is say the thing, and then the universe aligns everything else to get it. But not that we're sitting back and let things happen. I don't subscribe to that. But so this is interesting. And you're like, hey, look, I'm going to tell you exactly how I want it.
Yeah, because it's listening, right? And it wants you to have everything that you want. And we call it the universe. Somebody can call it God. Somebody can call it Buddha. You can call it whatever it is that you believe in, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be really specific in how you want what you want. And then I think it gives it a different path, and it puts you on the right path that doesn't have too many road bumps in the way or whatever. And, is it always perfect? No, because there will always be something, but there are not as many somethings as there used to be. So I think for me, it's like a slow month.
A slow month?
Yeah, like a slow month or two, and then everything hits again. And then I'm like, gotcha. Okay, but I have to, but for me, it's like, okay, it's slow, but I know it's going to pick up whenever it's going to pick up. And then it does. And then I'm okay again.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, interesting path this conversation went down. Didn't know we were going to be so existential so quickly, Iris.
I mean, look, people listen to this podcast, and there's always what I love about this is whoever is listening hears something they're supposed to hear.
This is very true. Yeah.
Right. And so this thing has taken so many twists and turns and different conversations and just different roads. And it's like, we start here. Well, we're going to go on this map, it's going to go different. But I think for, us, I think that, this conversation, first off, has been a long time coming. But I kind of feel like when a lot of people expect the universe to just deliver, and it doesn't work like that. It's like you work it. So yes, we ask the universe to do this, we want this, but we have to do the work. The universe isn't going to go like, oh, okay, here you go.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Right?
100%. We have to do the work. Something.
Right.
Yes. And there's no such thing as perfect. I really don't like that word. That word can go kick rocks. There's no such thing. There's no model of best of the best of the best and perfect, nothing goes wrong and this is ideal for everyone. That exists. It does not exist. Yeah. Perfection does not exist. I really wish that we did not have a concept of that word, because it's going to look different for everybody, which is why we're all crazy and wild trying to look for this thing that literally does not exist. It's going to be different for everyone.
Why you do what you do.
Yeah.
How you do what you do.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you do, why you do, and how you do it.
Oh, we're back on me again. All right, if we must.
This is all you. I mean, we're convoicing, but this is also
convoicing. All right. So why I do what I do, or here's why. I touched on it a little bit when I started talking about my journey in the beginning, and what I did specifically with retouching. Everybody knows retouching. It's getting rid of wrinkles. It's, making double chins go into one chin. It's making 200 pounds become 120 pounds. Stop it. I see what you're doing.
How do you do yeah, I know. I go like this. It's like, oh, there she is. Like, how do you take 200 pounds? Like, how do you do that? Because then somebody sees somebody in person and they're like, no.
Well, see, that was the thing. It was the in-person thing. And let's talk about the in-person thing, because yes, I was working on still digital images, Photoshop and more Photoshop. I was really good at Photoshop. I am really good at Photoshop. That's kind of like my thing. We all have our things. Photoshop is my thing. And I love classical artistry, Caravaggio and Michelangelo, the realistic painters. And so Photoshop was almost like painting to me, which was why I was really good at skin and texture and color. You could not tell that things were Photoshopped after my hands were on it. It was beautiful. It was meditative. It was a place where I definitely did shine. And that's why I was able to do Oprah and Friends, all the celebrities and blah, 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 world leaders. And, it was a thing. And that's why, it would have been nice if I made lots more money doing it. But the thing that made it, sure, let's use those words. Yeah, I had no sense of self-worth when I came out of that place, but whatever, it's fine. I am where I am right now. But okay, so back to the story. The thing that was happening, the thing that makes me do what I do now is that it was a lie. What I saw happening really was the outside story of what was happening to us as a culture, as a society, because as a result of what I was doing, because my work ended up in magazines, my work ended up in books and literature and television and print and all the places where quote unquote normal everyday people lived, worked, et cetera, et cetera. And so here you are, your normal, gorgeous, beautiful self. You go to the grocery store, you're waiting in line, and you're flipping through these magazines, and all you see is page after page after page, because this was before Snapchat and Instagram and digital formats, right? We had books, we had magazines. And so You're flipping through pages at the grocery store, the doctor's office, your cousin's house, because she's got a subscription in the mail. And that's all you see, and that's all you talk about is page after page of this word again: perfect skin, perfect clothing, perfect hair, perfection, 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 or at least that's what we're being told is perfection and what we, again, all in quotation marks, what we should look like. Mm-hmm. And then we come home, Iris, and we look in our own bathroom mirror. We don't look like what was in those magazines.
No.
So what starts to happen to us? That eats away at our brain cells. It's horrible, that side story, that small voice in your head, that comparison to something that does not actually exist, because I just spent hours and hours and hours of my life making it look like that.
Wow.
And so that cultural voice of here is something beautiful to aspire to really started to get louder and louder and louder. And I was feeling guilty going to work every day because I was playing into that. Those were my hands making you feel that way at the grocery store. That's how I was feeling, Iris.
Wow.
And so I do what I do right now because I knew that the people that I was working with were fine, just as they were. And I also knew that this woman at the grocery store comparing herself to this photo in the magazine was gorgeous the way she was, even though she didn't feel like she measured up.
Right.
And so part of my experience, my story that I told you in the beginning of me going home that weekend and discovering that I needed to do a complete 180 on what I was doing. I no longer wanted to fix other photographers' work. I didn't want to retouch. I didn't want to digitize. I didn't want to use Photoshop as a tool to lie to people about what they quote unquote should look like. Wow. Instead, I wanted to grab this new tool, the camera, something that tells the flippin' truth. And I wanted to turn the camera onto people without Photoshop and without filters and without tricks and gimmicks and pause, and help them to see immediately the gorgeousness that I knew was there, but they had a lot of trouble seeing themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I would still retouch, and I have to follow up with saying that because, I don't want people going to my website and being like, well, this skin looks great. What do you mean? Clutching my pearls. That's not, I want people to understand retouching, I still feel is an essential part of my process. Mm-hmm. But what I will not ever do again, this is the defining word. I won't manipulate you anymore. Right. I'm not going to make you thinner than what you are. I'm not going to make you lose your wrinkles and lose your gray hair. I'm not going to make you transform into this plastic. I have
the Veda for the gray hair, but
Oh my gosh. But this plastic mannequin, pretend perfection kind of thing. Yeah. I love it when people, oh my gosh, I have so much to say. I just did Ravenswood Art Walk. And 50 people came up the stairs and I photographed them in like 2 minutes each because that's what I do for Art Walk. I do like these live demonstrations because everything that I just said, most people roll their eyes at me. I'm wrinkly and I'm old and I'm fat and I'm not photogenic. So you just read my bio earlier. What's in my bio? I changed the way that we look at ourselves in the mirror. I disrupt the beauty industry. I change beliefs. So when people say to me, I'm not photogenic, I don't do well in front of the camera, I squash that immediately. You don't have to believe me. Sit the fuck down in my chair. Watch this. 20 seconds later, there are 10 photos on the giant TV screen that I have not retouched, that I have not put through any filters. And their mouths are watering looking at the screen. And they're like, how the fuck did you just do this? What just happened? How is it that I'm 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, and I've never liked any photos of myself, but I just met you? What crazy voodoo magic just happened for me to love what I'm seeing on the screen? How did you do this, Meka? And the answer is because I've been I've been in that world, Iris. I saw the celebrities. I saw what we were reacting to, and I knew that that was not the truth. And I crave truth. I want you to see the truth that is just so hard. And it's not your fault. It's not our fault that we don't like wrinkles and gray hair and weight and age, because our society has taught us to not cherish and appreciate these things. But when you are able to see yourself the way that I can see you with all of these things, and actually not just like your photo, but recognize it and love it, that changes you. It shifts you. It helps you to realize that that old story of I'm not photogenic does not exist. It's not your job to be a certain way in front of a camera. That's my job. That's my job. Don't take away my job. Don't put the responsibility on you. You are not a photographer. You're a baker. You're a nurse. You're a podcast host. You're a writer. You're whatever. Stay-at-home mom. You can be whatever the fuck you want. My job is to make sure that you look good in front of the camera. And I can do that without Photoshop and filters.
That is so awesome. And, you know, you say that, and it's so funny because what stopped me from doing video, and Kofi will tell you this is like, you know, because for like, I don't know, 2 years before I did my first video, he's like, you need to be doing video. And I was like, I don't need to be doing video, because to me, you know, you had to look like, you know, I don't know, like name somebody. I'm like Melissa Benoist, for the love of God, right? Like Katie McGraw, like whoever, right? Somebody, you know, and I was like, a celebrity. And I didn't feel that I had that look. And I was like, you know, no. So COVID hits in 2020, January of 2020, before COVID hit. I did my first video, and I remember looking at it and I was like, don't like it. And we showed it to this woman, Amanda, in our co-working studio. And Amanda's like, it looks amazing. And I'm like, I look terrible. So then COVID hits. Yeah. And I get online and I joined this like video group. And now we're like 5 months into COVID, and everybody looks like shit. Like celebrities are on, right? Like celebrities are doing video.
Their makeup artists can't work with them because
you can't do anything, right? Exactly. So, and we started the podcast in 22. So, but anyway, so 2020 hits and all this stuff is going on, and we're 5 months in. I have my Bonnie Raitt streak at this point, right? Like I'm not even, my eyebrows are, you know, gray and shit, and I don't care, because now I realize it's not how I look, it's the message. And when I realized that, yes, it was so freeing. It was like, oh, this is awesome. And then, of course, as soon as the salons opened up, my ass was in there because, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, it was one of those things that it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then when I decided to do the podcast, it was after my whole, you know, I had long-term COVID and all this stuff. And I called Kofi up and I said, let's do it. And I knew that I was going to be on video, and I knew that it was going to be this whole thing. And I got really comfortable because I don't wear makeup. It's just not my thing. That's right. And so that's why you can see my little, you know, it is what it is, right? So, but
there's story and message and everything.
There's a lot of story, man. I mean, I've lived a fucking long, you know, wonderful life.
That's right. And you couldn't have lived that fucking amazing life that you've had, being all dainty and cute and I'm afraid to breathe and open up the door. And, you know, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody who's got, you know, afraid to open up the door, but you know what I mean.
It was a hard life, and I've earned every single one of these. And that's why I don't, you know, but, so this show is about entrepreneurship. It's about your story, but
it is about
the entrepreneurship. Nice. So what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Don't do it. No, I'm joking.
I know. A lot of people
turn
do that.
Turn back now. God. Yeah.
Turn around while you can.
I have a lot of tiny little nuggets of wisdom when it comes to entrepreneurship. I really do. Don't listen to business advice from people who don't have businesses is something that I would say out the gate. Everything that I'm about to say, I learned the hard way. So that's one of them. Another thing is don't feel like you have to do all the things. That is probably the greatest bit of advice that I can give. We are not structurally built to do all of the things. I think visioning where you want to be, like some people can do all the things because the vision of what they want to achieve will allow them to have their hands in all of the spaces. But if you're someone like me who is ridiculously ambitious and doesn't know when to sleep or to quit, don't do all the things. Right. It's okay to ask for help. Do your freaking 80-20. What are the things that only you can do, which should be around 20% of your entire business, and that other 80%, give it to someone else. Yeah. Learn what it actually means to hire people, because that's something I didn't know. I thought I was just giving my salary away if, I was going to hire someone, but that's not exactly how it works. Right. So definitely solicit the advice and the training and the help and the service of your friends and support systems and people who are available for hire around you so that you can focus on the true grit and money-making aspect of your business while the other parts are being taken care of. What else as far as advice? Allow yourself the patience to grow. It's 9 years in. And even though my ultimate goal has not changed, COVID happened, a couple illnesses happened. I'm not on the timeline that I set out for myself, but there are days where I have to remind myself not to feel behind, because nobody put me on that time schedule but me. Right. And the whole world suffered from COVID, not just me. And I needed the surgeries or else I wouldn't be alive today. It's just things one after another that you can't beat yourself up about. So allow yourself time and patience and pause, for goodness sakes, in the between spaces while you're headed on this path. Allow yourself celebrations when celebrations are due. Allow yourself moments to breathe, to look back and appreciate, and to take stock in not being on the exact same square you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 7 years ago, 9 years ago. I am not the same person that I was 9 years ago.
Hopefully none of us are.
And thank God, right?
Right.
And surrounding yourself with support and friends who remind you of that is imperative. It is a necessity. Yep. No man is an island. No woman is either. So definitely, I'm a big fan of celebrating in the between spaces.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. And I think a lot of times, that pause is so important, and allowing yourself grace. I find a lot of people don't allow themselves grace and
grace and gratitude.
Grace and gratitude, right? But
you have to turn it into gratitude. Success begins with gratitude.
100%. But I can't even say that enough, because as soon as I started doing just daily gratitude, I wake up every morning, and I try to do this every morning. I do wake up every morning, obviously. Thank you. But when I wake up every morning, when I get out of the shower, I look at all of me, and then I look at myself in the eye. I've been doing this for years, even on days that I'm not feeling it right. Like this morning, wasn't feeling it. And it's like, I love you. Go out and make it your best day. And if you don't, it's okay. We'll try again tomorrow. But go out and do your best. And it really starts the day with a good, positive energy. And, sometimes it lasts throughout the day. And sometimes, like today, it just unravels really fucking quickly. And it's okay, because I know
it's okay.
Like you were like, should we do this another day? And I knew, talking to you, like, if I tell you, because I was talking to somebody at 1:00, I had a meeting, and they were like, if you're feeling like this, why don't you just rearrange your day? I'm sure that they'll understand. I'm like, no. I'm getting to talk to Meka later. Nope. Because I know that's going to uplift. Like, I knew it. Right. And when you were like, should we redo this? I was like, oh, hell no. Because just seeing you makes me feel good. And so
are
it was
you
like,
I'm uplifted watching you.
Yes. I mean, it's just like there's like this energy thing. And, I kind of go, it's so easy to take those great days for granted. Right? And when we're grateful for even the shitty days, that's when it makes a difference, because, today was a shitty day, but I'm grateful I got to talk to you today. And I'm grateful that my dogs haven't barked this entire time. This is like a miracle. There's like so many things that I'm grateful for. And I always say that in everything bad, right? We'll, put it in quotation marks, something good always comes out of it.
There's a balance.
There's a balance, and you have to look for it, because if you don't, you're just going to get stuck in the mire. That's
right. I don't know if this was, Johnny Depp saying this or just the interweb pretending like Johnny Depp said this, but I like it regardless. And the words are, don't let a bad moment create a bad day, or something to that effect. Like, just because I think that was it. Just because it's a bad moment or or a bad experience doesn't mean it's a bad life. I think that was the complete phrasing. Yeah. And it's true. And I do mindfulness. I've been doing mindfulness now since COVID. So for something years. And I used to, if something pissed me off, I was done for the week. If you pissed me off, or if something pissed me off, I was pissed off for the rest of the week. And there was nothing that you could. Now it gets 90 seconds. If that, If that, right? And if I need to give it more, I give it a little more, but it's up to me. It doesn't control me anymore. And that's the difference. You have to take control of the stuff, because then it is just stuff. What I love what you're saying right now is that we forget that we actually are in control of our emotions. I have a lot of sisters and a lot of friends. I'm very blessed to have a lot of people around me. And it is difficult sometimes to encourage people and remind them that, hey, you get to choose how you feel in this moment. You really do. I know it sounds bonkers, but it is the truth. And if you don't believe me, pay attention to the next emotion that you're having and just play around with it. Shift it for a second, find out where the emotion's coming from, acknowledge it, and see if you can tweak it a little bit. If you want to feel giddy about it instead of just passive, or if you want to feel curious about something instead of angry, you have that control. We can't change the circumstances around us, but we can absolutely change how we feel towards it.
Yes, we can't control it, but we can control how we react to it. or yeah. And yeah, and this just makes me so happy because I know there are people listening to this that, do let anger take over, right? They do let their emotions get the best of them because they haven't mastered how to not let that happen. And, to them, I say what we said earlier, pause. Take that pause.
Acknowledge, reflect, even as you're saying this, I'm kind of thinking about the earlier part of our conversation because I got a little upset. Like it's been a long time since I worked at that, that I worked for someone other than myself. Sure.
Yep.
Let's say it that way.
Yep.
And remembering it, I have a lot of emotions, sure. Sometimes even regret, which is, that's a pretty big emotion. But I tell the story because someone as gracious as you ask me and you're curious and you allow me to speak about it, which I appreciate. And so, I tap into that frustration and that anger a little bit, remembering the tale, right? Mm-hmm. But then I have to also bring myself out of it. And today is a new day and I've done this thing for myself and 9 years later. And how do I really feel about it now? And the truth is, what did we say? Success begins with gratitude. There's no way that I could be doing what I'm doing right now if I hadn't chosen to take that experience and mold it into something not just useful and helpful for me, but for other people. We all want a purpose and we all want a service on this planet. And I'm grateful and joyful that I found mine, even though, sure, I had to go through some hell to get here, but without it, where's the balance? I went through, I trudged through hell so that I can come on the other side and find my joy, the thing that brings me peace. And would I do things differently? Not if I wasn't able to be here knowing my purpose, right?
Right. And you wouldn't. And that's the thing is, I look at my life and we're coming up on our time, but we'll talk about this in person, but, I look back on my life and every experience from when, I was a kid who was abused to a homeless 19-year-old to all of the stuff, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be as strong and resilient, or I wouldn't know that I was as strong and resilient as I am, and I wouldn't be able to help and guide people.
Exactly.
Right?
There it is.
Because
that's it
me,
right there. Yeah.
It's not that I went through it. It's that I went through it so that maybe somebody else doesn't have to.
There it is. Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, it kind of is.
And there we are.
And there we are, right? I mean, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And there are a lot of, entrepreneurs that were just burnt from corporate and they started their own business, or they were, working for a certain sector. And it was just like, this is too heartbreaking. I can help elsewhere. And I think at the end of the day, it's how can we take what we've learned and help?
That's right.
In doing what we're doing. So for me, it's marketing, right? For you, it's making people,
it's philanthropy.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's, like
it's
for me,
therapy, it's philanthropy.
Oh.
That's what I do. I'm a heart surgeon. That's what I do.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, for me, I just like seeing people succeed. I like watching businesses grow. And if I can be a part of that, then that's my reward,
There we go.
So there we go. But okay, so I was going to ask you two other questions, but I'm not going to. But my friend Michelle, who listens to this all the time, who says, I like structure, and when you don't do structure, but I always ask one question.
Ask me two more questions. Edit out the other stuff. This is important. What's going on?
No, but this is no. The other stuff was important. That's bullshit. I am going to ask the question that I'm going to ask. Damn it, we're keeping all the other stuff in because it's you. It's your story, and it's beautiful. I mean, I think that this conversation might have been one of the best ones that we've had.
Stop it.
Oh no, Kofi, I guarantee you when we get done, Kofi's going to be like, oh, hell yeah. And he's a producer. So, but anyway, okay. So thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with me and of course my audience. I adore you. I love you dearly. And
I love you.
I just think the world of you. So, but the last question I'm going to ask is, what lights your fire?
What lights my fire?
Personal, professional, whatever it is, doesn't matter.
My professional is my personal. That's my dirty secret. It lights my fire. I'm a little bit sneaky. That's the truth. I'm just going to be honest. I can't candy coat this. It lights my fire to prove people wrong. And that's what I get to do every fucking day.
Ooh. I'm making a fucking quote out of it. I'm making a meme out of that. We're gonna make a meme out of that for sure. That is awesome. Oh my God. I'm
a Leo. I like feeling like I'm right all the time. And when I get to
my mom was a Leo, that explains a lot. God, that explains a lot.
Our mutual love for each other. I like proving people wrong in this particular way. Mm-hmm. You think that you don't look good in photographs. I'm not afraid of you. Let's go. Let's do this.
God, I love that. Okay. All right. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience and I'll be right back. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I have no doubt that you adore and love Miss Spider Meka as much as I do. I mean, she's fucking amazing. Let's face it. As always, please like, share, subscribe, and review. Give reviews, because that really helps with the ratings. And I mean, I absolutely love that I get to do this. I love that I get to speak to people like Meka and just dive as deep as we do. And I know sometimes I don't stick to the structure, but if you know me, I am not a structure kind of girl. But I always do, Michelle, try to get to that last question for you. But really, everybody, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and either listening or watching. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.